What if being a quote-unquote genius looks absolutely nothing like it does in the movies? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally ditching that loud, hyper-confident Hollywood stereotype to reveal the quiet, hidden, and honestly sometimes messy psychological reality of a highly active mind.
You know the trope. On screen, the genius bursts into a room. They immediately have all the answers, and they completely dominate the conversation. But in the real world, it's pretty much the opposite. Highly intelligent people are very often the quiet observers. They're reflective, sometimes solitary, and instead of walking around thinking they know everything, they actually tend to question absolutely everything. And yes, that includes questioning themselves.
So it really makes you wonder, what if intelligence actually looks like a weakness from the outside? Could behaviors that just look like hesitation or a lack of confidence, or even social isolation, actually be signs of a highly complex cognitive process? Now, to be clear, doing these things isn't some official diagnostic IQ test, but they're 11 incredibly common psychological patterns that are deeply tied to extreme intelligence. Let's dive in.
Part 1. The inner mind. Processing the noise.
Constant mental activity, cognitive flexibility, and an intolerance for repetition. These first three traits, they're really driven by an underlying engine of intense information processing. The brain is quite literally pulling in data, sorting it all out, and searching for connections at just a breakneck speed.
To anyone watching, this constant mental activity just looks like an exhausting inability to turn your brain off. You might seem totally perpetually distracted during a simple conversation, but cognitively, your mind is running advanced background simulations. It's analyzing past events and predicting future outcomes all at once. And dealing with all that takes some serious cognitive flexibility. Instead of stubbornly sticking to one single path when faced with a challenge, a high IQ thinker rapidly adapts. They'll view a problem from angle A, seamlessly reevaluate it from angle B, and then synthesize a completely new solution from angle C. It's essentially the mental agility to hold multiple, sometimes totally conflicting concepts in your head at the exact same time without completely short-circuiting.
And because of this hyper-fast processing, there is a fierce intolerance for repetition. Now, to a boss or a teacher, this might just look like sheer boredom, maybe a bad attitude, or a super short attention span. But actually, it's neurological starvation. Once the pattern is recognized, boom, the problem is solved. Having to repeat it just feels completely unstimulating and entirely counterproductive to a mind that is literally starved for novelty.
Part 2. The social disconnect. The quiet observer.
A preference for solitude, intellectual isolation, choosing observation over expression, and this lingering feeling of not belonging. It's actually wild how these four traits constantly get mislabeled as antisocial behavior or extreme shyness. In reality, they stem from this super intense internal world and a continuous, deep awareness of complexity. And that can make standard, everyday social interactions feel, well, just a bit out of sync.
This is exactly why high IQ folks will often just sit completely quiet in a crowded room. It's not that they're scared to speak. Their metacognition is simply telling them that observing yields far more valuable data. Listening and watching the room's dynamics is how they learn. Just speaking to hear their own voice is highly inefficient to them. But look, all that heavy observation, it comes with a cost. A really persistent sense of not fitting in. When your brain is working at this hyper-fast processing speed, finding peers who share that exact conversational depth and cognitive pacing is statistically rare. It's not that they dislike people, not at all. It's just the harsh reality of intellectual isolation.
Part 3. The burden of awareness. Knowing what you don't know.
Emotional depth, intellectual humility, procrastination, and self-doubt. When you see all the variables at play, it makes it so much harder to just blindly charge forward. In fact, that exact awareness of complexity is why highly intelligent people so often paralyze themselves with procrastination. They can literally see every single possible flaw and outcome before they even take step one.
And this intense emotional depth is captured so perfectly by Kazimir Dabrowski's theory of overexcitabilities. Giftedness often comes wired right into a nervous system that responds to stimuli, whether that's intellectual, emotional, or sensory, with just massive intensity. They don't just think about the world's problems deeply, they literally feel them deeply. And this leads right into a really fascinating paradox, explained by the Dunning-Kruger effect. When someone has limited knowledge, their confidence is often dangerously high because, to them, the world is just black and white.
But highly intelligent people, they hesitate. They doubt themselves precisely because their high competence lets them see exactly how vast the ocean of things they don't know actually is.
To actually survive that intense self-doubt and the harsh self-criticism that comes with it, high IQ individuals have to lean hard into a growth mindset. This is a concept popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck. They have to actively remind themselves that their abilities are not static, and that pushing through all that hesitation and uncertainty is literally the only way to adapt and learn.
Ultimately, this all builds a deep sense of intellectual humility. It's this profound transformation from arrogantly claiming, "I know," to the completely open-minded realization of, "I could be wrong." The true hallmark of complex thinking isn't having all the answers. It's remaining constantly open to new data and accepting that your current understanding might actually be flawed.
Part 4. Experiencing complexity. The final picture. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, remember this. High IQ does not equal arrogance. Intelligence is not some giant trivia contest. Fundamentally, it is about experiencing the vast, overwhelming complexity of the world with much less filtering than the average person. It's just a continuous state of processing and adaptation.
And this entire cognitive journey, it's really a continuous cycle. It starts with asking deep questions, which reveals the world's complexity, naturally leading to a whole lot of uncertainty. But rather than running away from that uncertainty, the mind uses it. It uses it to foster quiet observation and deep self-reflection, which ultimately leads to genuine, profound learning.
So I'm curious, which of these 11 traits did you actually recognize in yourself? Are your own moments of hesitation maybe just signs of a hyperactive mind assessing all the variables? Take a moment to reflect on these patterns and definitely let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you want to keep unpacking the hidden psychology of how our minds actually work, make sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, the smartest person in the room is usually the one doing the most listening.